So thanks for coming. I'm sorry we're interrupting your Sunday cram session before classes tomorrow. Tonight you'll be hearing from a few upperclassmen about course registration, and these people have gone through it a few times. We have senior Abby Williams. She's a member of ASB, the Representation Chair on Student Government, and works with the Alumni Relations Council. And we have junior Ricky Lanzalotti, an orientation leader, student life representative for student government, and an ASB member. They're going to go over the process of registering for classes, including how to use Banner and a program we have called DegreeWorks. And then this session will be followed by drop-in hours in Part D 101 and 102A to meet with faculty, students, including myself, Ricky, Abby, and a few other upperclassmen if you have any questions or concerns with your registration process. So, without further ado, Ricky and Abby.
Thanks, Scott.
Oh, well, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so how many of you have gone to your mailbox on Friday and actually picked up the course registration? We'll start with that. I guess
you're all ahead of me. I have yet to do that.
So I guess there's some of you who haven't. That's a good first way to start, is to actually pick up the registration. How this is going to work is I'm going to run through some pre-registration tips. Ricky's going to talk about the day of, and then we're going to end with DegreeWorks, as Scott said. So first, go to your mailbox. Actually get the course registration so you know what classes are being offered next semester. For those of you who are really type A, like me, this is like Christmas, Hanukkah in October, because you get the courses and then it is your time to color code. Now, if you're like Ricky, he doesn't color code, that's okay, so we're gonna address both ends of the spectrum. I suggest look first what courses are in your major and begin to map out what you need to take. If you haven't declared a major or you don't know what you're going to declare next year, that's okay. Begin looking at your Common Course of Study and what classes are required. You're going to want to skim the course registration catalog. Pull out a few classes. I like writing like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and beginning to map out what classes work when, and having a few alternate courses. Because you're going to need to meet with your advisor to get your PIN number. Ricky will go over as I said, the day of registration, but in order to register, you need your PIN, and your advisor holds that number, so that key to registration. And then on the front page of the course catalog, it says when you're going to register, like the date and time. Set a few alarms for that morning. Don't stay up too late or go out the night before, because sleeping through registration can be problematic, to say the least. And the way it works is seniors and juniors will register first on different days, and so once you've picked out the courses you want to take, you should check Banner to see if those courses are still open, because if they've closed and there's a wait list, there's still a small chance you can get in, but more than likely it'll be much more difficult. So you'll want to go through after the seniors and the juniors have registered to see if the courses you want are still available. And if not, you go to your alternate list and also create another alternate list. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ricky.
Yes. So, Banner self-service. Some of you may have already accessed it at your time here at Lafayette. Some of you may have not, and that's okay. So the way I access it is I Google it. Go figure. I go to Google and I literally type in Banner self-service Lafayette. Honestly, that's the way I do it. For registering, go to the next one, thank you. So for registering for classes, you want to go to, you have to log in using your Lafayette ID and password. And from there, you go to Student and Financial Aid. And then you click on Registration. And then you click on the select term, and this is important, select the correct term that you are registering for classes for. So, then you have to click submit. And then you follow the link at the bottom of the page to check your registration status. And please note the date and time that you can register. So, on the course catalog, it tells you the day and time. I believe it's November 14th, which is Friday at 7 a.m. Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. We'll go with it. So, general tips a few days prior. Did you already talk about this? Pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We're going for it. Continue. Oh, yeah, this is exactly what Abby was talking about. So, as she mentioned, seniors, juniors, and sophomores all have registration before you all, which is kind of annoying. However, it's something that happens and you just got to deal with it. But it is important to know that you can still get in those classes, so don't feel deterred just because they've all registered that you can't get in. However, if you're looking to get into those, into specific classes relative to your particular major, it might be a little more difficult rather than those, well, also with those big classes that people are really trying to take, Bio 101, things of that nature. Pretty tough to get into. However, on Banner, you can actually look up a particular class and see course availability. So it's called a cap, and each class has a cap in capacity, and that tells you the amount of students that can take the class. And from there, it'll tell you how many spots are available. And then from there, you can kind of determine if it's possible to get into that class or not. It may say there's 0 spots available. At that point, this is something that not a lot of people will tell you, but you can make a concerted effort to go to that professor and say, look, I really want to take this class. It's something I need, and this is the best semester to do it. Some professors will allow it and say, you know what, it's fine, we have another desk, go for it. And you can talk to them, they sign off, you're good. However, some professors are very, very stern with the course capacity that's set on Banner. So you may not get it. It's kind of unfortunate, but just keep that in mind. Oh, also very important. When you are signing up for classes with labs, the course CRN, course registration number, in your catalog, in the newspaper, call it a newspaper, the CRN is the number associated with that class, and it's always to the left of the class. So classes with labs like bio, chem, physics, that course registration number, you'll get on Banner, you have boxes that you fill in the course registration number, and then you click submit. For courses with labs, the 2 CRNs, the lecture and the lab, have different CRN numbers, and they have to be inputted on the same line, and then click submit. You can't do lecture, submit, lab, submit. It has to be on the same line. That screwed me over freshman year. Don't let it happen to you.
When you get to the morning of, and you're going to find that some classes might have, say, 5 spots available, this is when you need to strategize about how to actually submit your courses. So you have to put when you have labs, you have to put the lecture in the lab and submit at the same time, but that's not to say that you have to submit all 4 of your courses or 5 for the engineers out there at the same time. So if you know you have one class that's going to be particularly hard to get into, submit that one first. Your entire class is registering at the same time, so the internet is going to, for some of you, be slower. Last year I had 2 roommates, we were registering in Souls, and I got on right away and got my classes. But my other 2 roommates, it took like 5 minutes, and that just sort of, no one knows why it takes longer for some, but that happens. One of the tips I would have is talk to your roommate about how they handle stress. Some people, registration is a really stressful event. My sophomore roommate told me the night before, she said, Abby, I get very stressed out with registration, and if I start crying, just ignore me. I said, okay, that's fine, it's registration. Sure enough, the next morning, her account was frozen, and Ricky's gonna talk more about why this happened, but her bill hadn't been paid or whatever, her account was frozen. She already is stressed out about the event, and then she can't register. So she started hysterically crying. And she's there sobbing, I'm registering, got all my classes. And I literally ignored her because that's what she had told me to do, and I felt really bad, but those were her her explicit instructions to me. And later she calmed down and got her classes and whatnot, and she said, thanks for ignoring me. And I said, okay, great. But talk to your roommate, because you're going to want to know how to support him or her in this situation, because it can go well for some people, and some people can have little nightmare episodes. But
Another helpful tip for course registration numbers. What I like to do is the night before registration, I get all my course registration numbers on the Word document, and that way in the morning, I'm logged on to Banner and I can just copy and paste, rather than looking through. I mean, you can write it down on a note card, whatever you prefer, but I just like to copy and paste. It makes it a lot easier, makes it efficient, and might actually help you get into a class that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. So.
And going off of that, so the registration opens exactly at 7 a.m., not at 6:59. And if you try to beat the system, it just won't let you in. So something that my roommates and I have done is like we set our alarm at like 6:45 to get up, 6:50 again, because who's really up at 6:45 and fully cognizant. And then we get to our desk and say at like 6:59 and 45 seconds, I would start a countdown. It sounds ridiculous, but when it hit 7 a.m., we knew exactly when it was going to hit to press submit, because it can take some time to get in, and you want to submit right at 7. As Ricky said, he had his CRN, or his number in, so he could get into the system, and then I always have my first course number ready to be pasted, so I just press Control-V, and then if that is the course that's really hard to get into, I press submit and then go through it. So it sounds sort of crazy that we come up with these strategies, but it helps us get into classes, I guess.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but can you put the CRNs in prior to 7 a.m.? You can. I'm getting yeses and nos. You can't hit submit, but you can put them in prior to 7?
No, because you can't even get in. No.
So you can put your pin in.
You can.
But just
Yeah. So at 7 o'clock, you're gonna put your pin in, and at 7 a.m. you're gonna hit submit. And once you get in, that's when the boxes at the bottom of the page will appear, and you put your CRN in.
Everyone clear with that? No. Okay, so you have that PIN number that your advisor is going to give you. Make sure in the next week or 2 weeks you see your advisor. They will give you your registration PIN number. That PIN number, keep with you, write it down, write it on your palm. Take a picture of it, whatever you need to do to remember it. And then, come morning of registration, you cannot put in your course registration numbers prior to 7 a.m. What you can do is paste that your PIN number for registration on before 7 a.m., then click submit at 7, and that is when you get the boxes that you put your course codes in. Does that clarify everything? There's a question session after, so we'll take care of that, if anyone's still confused.
It says that you can go to Markle at 9 a.m. to register. That was in the days before computers. I know, those days existed. Don't do that, just register at 7, and if you don't have a laptop, you can go to the computer lab in the basement of Marquee or in Farranon near Upper, and use those computers as well, since the library won't be open. But don't go to Markle at 9 a.m. is the takeaway from this slide.
All right, some fun common registration errors. These suck, I'll be honest. You'll get messages and you'll be like, what the hell just happened? Plus, you're like really tired because it's 7 a.m., so like nothing's going your way at this point. Anyway, some common ones. I'll start from the top and kind of work my way down. I know it's kind of small. Some common ones that I've seen are closed or waitlisted. So if a course is closed, the number of students on the list is currently indicated, and it's, like I said earlier, there's probably 0 spots left. And the remedy for that is either go talk to the professor that you know is teaching that course and say, look, I'm a first year, there were no spots left. You know, introduce yourself politely, very formally. And hopefully that'll leave a good impression on the professor and you can kind of work your way into the class. Otherwise, it's closed and there's nothing really you can do at that point, which is imperative, and that point emphasizes the fact of how imperative it is to have alternative courses. Really, I make a list. I don't make a color-coded schedule or anything like that. However, having those alternative courses are really, really important because it's inevitable that you may likely probably not get into every single class that you want. It's just the way it is. So have those alternative courses. Really, really make sure you have 2 or 3. Okay, so department head or instructor signature. So this is something that you have to do in person, obviously. The course requires a signature for you to take. So you have, if you want to take, and it'll be noted within the course catalog, but if you have to get a signature of some kind. But make sure that if you are taking class with those provisions that you take care of that and you find the professor. Probably the best way to do it, make note of the professor's last name, send them an email. And that way you can get in contact with them, find where they'll be, and talk to them about it. Next one is not open to, and then in parentheses it'll say first years or first years, sophomores, things of that nature. Those classes typically require prereqs, maybe not, but they just aren't open to a particular class year. So you can't even consider taking those. And then next is course prereqs. So prerequisite, these courses require that you take lower level courses prior to taking that class. So and that's also noted in the course catalog. So this actually happened to me freshman year. I was trying to get into an upper level religion class, which actually Religion 101 was a prereq, so I had to take that first. So I actually couldn't get into that higher level religion, so just make note of that. Lastly, open, hashtag waitlisted. I'm not sure what that is. It should just be waitlisted. However, just make note the course has openings and students on the wait list have priority. Abby, you want to describe waitlist?
Sure, so once the course closes, a waitlist will automatically open up, and it goes on a priority list. So for one of my classes this semester, someone actually got in because they were the first person on the wait list. So if you do want a class and you want to be considered in the fall, put yourself on the wait list. It won't count, obviously, as one of your 4 credits, but it's worth a try. And if you try registering for a class and it gets closed in the process of your registration, you're automatically put on a wait list. And it'll indicate that when, once you hit submit and everything gets processed, it gives you a list saying you got in, you got waitlisted for that class. And then you can go back to the CRN boxes and resubmit. Another note on the prereq required, it's a computer that is doing all the processing. So I had an instance where I was registering for a physics lab or a physics class, and the prereq was math 125 or 161, and I had taken math 141, and and I didn't realize that the math was a prereq. So it didn't allow me to register for the class, which if you have one of those weird instances, just email the registrar explaining your situation. He got back to me that morning. Now, unfortunately, I was stuck in 8 a.m. lab by that point, but I was allowed into the class. So if you notice something where you think something, a previous course on your schedule should count, just shoot the registrar an email.
Registrar's email is registrar@lafayette.edu. It's pretty straightforward. So some other common registration errors, you have a time conflict, and that'll be apparent when you try and hit submit, and it'll say you have a time conflict, meaning 2 courses or more are overlapping and you logistically, that's not possible. And then maximum hours exceeded. I have never seen this because I haven't even come close to that, but if
So you get, for non-engineers, you get 4 classes, and if you want to take 5 courses, again, non-engineers, you have to later do an use an ad drop slip. So register for your top 4, the ones that you know that are hardest to get into, and then you have to go to the registrar's office, pick up. I don't know if you guys have been there or picked up the form, but there it says add and drop, and you go to that professor for that 5th course and have him or her sign off, and then submit it to the registrar, and they manually input your 5th class. You cannot register for 5 classes. Right, and it's based on your GPA.
Yes, so Professor Dukix of the Econ Department just said you have to petition for 5 classes, meaning you have to present your ideal circumstance, meaning your 5 classes. And
Oh, okay, so this doesn't even apply. You can't.
Freshmen can't take them.
yes, in the spring you can take 5 classes.
Okay, so we know a lot about juniors and seniors.
Yeah, so you can see there's still some ambiguity even in the upper class. So there you go. So, moving on.
I think the question is,
Yeah.
if you do have questions, especially for those who maybe don't know what you're going to major in, definitely use your advisor and professors who you already have taken to ask questions. Start looking longer term to see what sequences you need. But really the takeaway message from this presentation should be it's going to be okay. There are all these like horror stories about registration that filter around campus, and it's going to be okay. You're going to graduate hopefully in 4 years, and if you don't, it's not going to be registration. It's going to be.
It is, a lot of people talk, they say it's a stressful process. If you prepare and you set those classes, you really make a concerted effort to have those alternative courses, you set your alarms in the morning, there's really nothing you can do about Wi-Fi connection. Can't help you there. I've had problems with it where my roommate got all his classes by 7 o'clock, like literally 30 seconds after, and I have yet to even get on. So it's kind of a nightmare in that sense, but don't let it discourage you. If you have like outstanding circumstances, just talk to the registrar. They're more than happy to help.
And one more note, your account will be frozen if your bills aren't paid, and if you haven't taken Haven or
Oh my gosh,
Haven.
do Haven, please. Don't let that be the reason you can't register for classes. Oh my goodness, do Haven.
And if you're sitting in the audience right now saying, what's Haven? Turn to the person next to you, ask what Haven is, and then when you leave here, go and complete it. It takes 25 minutes at best.
Do it, please. Oh my goodness.
And if you don't do Haven or your account isn't paid, when you register, it'll freeze you out and it'll say hold on your account, and then you'll know why and remember this lovely talk. So with that, we realize there are still probably a lot of questions out there, and we're going to open it up to you guys. Just kidding. Oh, degree works. If you were on the health professions track, there is a set course, and you have advisors in Professor Waters, Dean Goldberg. If you're like, oh, I want to be a doctor and want to be on the health profession track and I'm not right now, it's okay. Go and email them. They're in Scott Hall. And then this information will also be emailed to you. But before I forget, Degree Works is our degree audit program. So you can, first you can get here by going onto Banner Self-Service, and the degree works is an option. And when you click on it, it'll open up this screen. And it's a way to track what classes you've taken and what classes you need to take in order to fulfill your major or majors. And essentially, it will give you the yellow with a little green checkbox, means you've taken it or you've fulfilled that requirement, and the red boxes mean you still need to take that course. So it's great to begin using as you prepare for registration, because this will give you some ideas of courses that you need to take, and then it also gives the prerequisites for each course, so it's a helpful tool to keep everything organized.
Yeah, so it's very beneficial in the sense that classes you need to take for the common course of study, meaning classes everyone has to take, list those, and classes within your intended major if you've already specified what your major is. So those are really helpful, and they also have lists of the actual class numbers. So each class has an associated number with it that you can look up in the course catalog and see if it's being offered, I guess, next semester. And that is a great way to see what courses you could potentially take. So utilize DegreeWorks. I actually didn't my first year, to be honest, but I've utilized it now, and it's really, really helpful, especially when seeing what classes I still need to take to fulfill my major.
It also has a what if option, so you can play around with what if I major in this, and it gives you those required courses, or if I want to switch majors, is this feasible to do within 4 years? So if you go on to the DegreeWorks itself, it becomes easy to play around with. The screenshots, it's sometimes hard to follow. But again, picking a major and the progression of what if, what would you need?
Can you go back? Can you go back on the slides? Go back. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Perfect. Stop. Yep, right here. So, just to reiterate, to get on to DegreeWorks, log into Banner Self-Service using your Lafayette username and password. And then under the Student Services tab, click on Student Records link, and that's where the DegreeWorks link is. It's difficult to find. I've had trouble with it like 2 years ago, so make note of that. Okay, now we can go.
Yeah, again, looking ahead and for graduation. So now we will open it up to questions. Feel free to ask general questions now, and then for more specific questions, upper class students and some faculty members will be available in party 102A and B until 9 p.m. to answer questions. So if you raise your hand, Lauren will come by with a mic, and we'll do our best to answer.
I just want to give some general advice from a faculty member's perspective. Two of my colleagues are also here, Professor Kanai from Civil Engineering and Professor Averick from Economics as well, and we'll be over in this small rooms. Probably the number one thing you don't want to do is walk into a professor and be completely unprepared, haven't looked at the course offerings, and that's very different from not knowing what you want to do. Those are two different things. It's okay if you don't know what you want to major in. That's fine. But to not have taken some time to look, as Abby said, create a list of courses that might interest you, okay? Faculty are here to help you, but we can only help you if you can help you. And so it's really important that you take the time to pick up that newspaper, to take a look at classes, talk to your RA about the classes they found most interesting, all sorts of ways you can get information about taking classes. But when faculty meet with you, it's about 15 minutes. And if you walk in and you haven't so much as looked at what's even being offered, the faculty member can't help you. So I'm imploring you, and I have a fair number of freshman advisees. I have advisees across all 4 years. Take the time to do a little bit of homework. And if you're not prepared, then just try to reschedule, okay? Because chances are there's 2 or 3 other people waiting in the hallway to see the same professor about the same thing. So cut your classmates some slack and cut the professor some slack and just do a little bit of work up front in terms of, because you know what interests you, we don't always know what interests you, okay? And secondly, you actually probably have the registration information long before we get it. If registration starts on the 14th of November, we probably won't get the information until the 7th of November. So I wouldn't worry about contacting your advisor immediately in terms of we won't even have your PIN numbers till then, and we won't even have the course newspapers till then. But if you have general questions, absolutely stop by and see your advisor. Every advisor works differently, and so it's really important that you get to know how your advisor works, okay? So perhaps from the engineering perspective, there might be some additional guidance.
Just two things. First of all, as I think I heard, the idea of the PIN, you're not going to get your PIN from most advisors until you have your meeting with them. That means just following up with Dr. Bucas had to say. So you have your courses set, you go in, you have your meeting, then you'll get your PIN. But I think the majority of us are not going to release that PIN until we know that you have everything under control. And the second thing is, most of us, probably all of us, really don't know how to sign up for these classes on the day you do it. So if you're going to ask us those sorts of questions in 102, we're not going to have the answer. So I would ask those in the general forum here.
No, nothing to add.
Okay.
It's all good.
All right, so now we will open the floor up to general questions. You all know how to register. That's awesome. I'm so glad you're here. Perfect, we got one.
Hello, hello, all right. So this is like more of like, I guess, an engineering question. They talk about like we could, stand up?
Yeah,
I'd love you to okay. So for the schedule, like the way they have it set on the school website, is it kind of looks like they kind of like set it up for us already, in that like the classes, they kind of have like semester by semester. Like, so in terms of registering, should we just be aiming to register for those classes that we've already seen, like we're supposed to be signing up for online, or like?
Yeah, so most of engineering has, if you go to your discipline, you'll see the classes you're supposed to take. It's kind of Common Core, so all engineers are taking this the same, except there are some exceptions there. For example, in chemical engineering, you have to take Chem 122. In the other areas of engineering, there are some other classes that you may take instead of the Chem 122. But they're pretty well set. The problem comes in if you have a lot of AP credits, then you have a little bit of latitude in what you want to do, and then the meetings become very important because you want to set up for things like double majors and things like that. So most of us in engineering will email all of you, all the first years, and say, you know, your meetings are going to be at this time, stop by, sign up, and then, you know, at that time you come in. Am I answering the question or no?
Yeah, because before when he was talking about Bio 101 being hard to get into, like I know like next semester a lot of engineers we have to go for physics, so it's like, is that going to be a hard class to get into per se for us?
No, for the most part, it will happen. Nothing's perfect, and so we arrange for enough slots to be there. In the case that you were locked out, what'll probably happen is it'll go back to physics, saying we're going to need another class or two, so somebody won't be able to sign up right away. But I think we've always worked it out that by the time you get to it, because physics is going to be a prereq for others, so that's not to worry about. What will be a problem would be if you want to take Econ 101, for example. There'll only be a certain amount of slots there if you were, and most of them will probably be filled up, but that wouldn't be a typical class. Well, it could be, because there is one Common Core. But what I'll say is that if you start to think about your Common Cores for engineering, if you don't have a language, I would think about taking a language early on, especially with study abroad upon us. And for engineers, study abroad is next year. It'll be offered fall and spring next year, so you want to think about how to get ready for that, and that's where if you had an extra slot, I would do that. Or if you didn't, then maybe even think about taking a 5th class and taking on language.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get you guys over here.
Hi, I'm still a little unclear. Can freshmen take 5 classes their second semester or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so you
Here's the thing. For first-year students, there is a possibility that you can take 5 classes in the spring. However, you have to petition, and you need your fall GPA to be high enough in order to be able to have your petition accepted. So what will happen is, you can't register for 5 classes now. You'll have to submit a petition. The Academic Progress Committee won't even consider your petition until your fall grades come out. You would need a 3.6. It's somewhere in the mid-3s, it's high. It's different for first-year students than it is for everyone else. Sophomores, juniors, and seniors need a 3.2. Spring semester, first-year students, I think it's a 3.6. So if you have a GPA that high this fall, chances are your petition will be accepted. If you're below, maybe within a couple hundredths, hundredths of a point, they'll consider it, but if you have a 3.0 GPA in the fall, it'll be a definitive no for an overload of 5 courses.
And to get the petition, it's in Markle. There's one form and it has a ton of boxes. If you just ask the secretary for a petition form, they'll point to the exact form, and you pick that up and the adjunct form for that 5th class.
I'd also take a minute to speak with your advisor about the wisdom of taking 5 courses. We have statistically followed it, and the GPA goes down when students take 5 courses. Our courses are designed here to keep you more than occupied with 4. But depending on individual circumstances, it's not, I hate the word hugely, but it's not hugely common for students to carry 5 courses unless they're the sciences or engineering. Okay, so I wouldn't do it until you thought long and hard about why you wanted to take 5. And the other thing I'd say too is, it's a good idea to spread your classes out over 5 days. You shouldn't take all 4 classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or 3 of them on Tuesday, Thursday. And once you start trying to fit 5 in, you really jam your days, and it becomes increasingly problematic. So just some food for thought.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Behind you.
So hi everyone. I'm not a science guy or an engineer guy or a math guy. I'm quite Englishy and artsy. Unfortunately, there's a lot of prerequisites that you guys have given us, which I understand why we're taking it. That's the liberal college arts idea. But there's not exactly a lot that, train of thought just went. Oh, right, so going back to class overloads. So for a guy who's intending to double major, in an English and theater type aspect, I'd still want to think about maybe taking more classes, because would there be any way, with all the Common Core prerequisites, would there be any way for the Academic Advisory Board to possibly drop some of them so we wouldn't have to pack our schedules full of stuff all the time?
Okay, I'll take a stab at answering that as someone who's been advising students here since 1991. So a really long time. We have lots of students who double major or who major and minor, and you don't need to do 5 courses in a semester to fit that in. But what I would say, your question brings up something really important, which is the Common Course of Study. And I would really urge you all to try to get as much of that Common Course of Study done this first year as you can. So you'll notice when you get the newspaper that we've been talking about a lot of the lab sciences, and everybody's required to have 1 lab science. Most of you, even social science and humanities types, and I'm from the social sciences, so I'm not sciencey either, you're going to end up with 2 lab sciences. And you want to take those your first 2 years here, because you'll notice most of those lab science courses are not open to juniors and seniors. And if you're an English artsy type, you don't want to be taking physics as a senior, 2nd semester. So you've got plenty to get done your first year, so I would work on getting a lot of these Common Course, get your math course done this year, get your lab science out of the way, get your language requirement. You can easily have 2 majors, because a lot of the stuff in your major will also count towards your Common Course of Studies. There's a lot of overlap there. A W will be in your major, a GM1 could be in your major. So you really don't need to. Most students here never take 5 courses in a semester. That's the norm, is not to take 5. So you really don't have to, even with 2 majors. So I hope that helps.
We got a question over here, Lynn.
Hi, where can you find out if you have outstanding balances that'll prevent you from registering?
On. Do you want to like what?
When you log into Banner Self-Service, if you see big red block letters that say hold on your account, that means you have a hold on your account. And so you're going to want to contact either the registrar or the controller's office. Someone will be able to tell you why you have the hold. Again, if it's Haven, just take Haven. It will not take you long at all, because if Haven keeps you from registering, you're going to be miserable. So log into Banner Self-Service as soon as possible. Like I said, if you see big red letters that say hold on your account, you want to figure out why and get it taken care of ASAP. Okay? Other questions?
Last time. All right.
Other questions?
Okay.
Go ahead. So, go ahead.
For the Common Course, I saw online that like some of the courses satisfied 2 of the subjects. Do they satisfy both, or do you choose one of them to satisfy?
No, if a class satisfies both, it will satisfy both. You don't choose. It works out very nicely like that.
Except with the GM1 and GM2. If a course counts as a GM1 and a GM2, you can't use it for both. You have to choose one.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So I'm not trying to like stray from the subject of like strictly registration, but where exactly and when can you find like your grade and your GPA for the fall? So you know like what you're doing before you